We're on our way deep into the Wenaha to Canyon Wilderness, which is one of those areas that a lot of Oregonians have never actually heard of. It's not big, it's not full of grand mountains, but we're told that within it is a river as wild as any in Oregon. But to get there and to find our way downstream promises to be an adventure. Oh, this pack hurts.
You know, the difficulties of finding our way down the river are kind of intriguing in a way, because we knew so little about this, none of us having boated this stream before. The reason why it's so difficult is that it's remote. It's hard to get to. You have to hike in at least 5 miles.
Tim Palmer first threw out the idea of stuffing our backpacks full of boats, paddles, and camping gear, and spending a few days trying to make our way down the Wenaha River. It sounded like a vacation before our bags tipped the scales at 70 pounds in the middle of July.
If it were easy, I would have been there by now, but it's not, and so we're here today.
Hauling all of our gear in was actually a bit of a risk because we weren't sure whether there would even be water in the river. Something we don't find out until we reach the end of the trail.
It's tiny. I mean, we could scrape through that. I don't know how many logs there are just downstream from here.
The river looks barely boatable, but we're going anyway.
Yes. I think we should put it in here. Think of it as like lubricated hiking.
I like that.
Our plan is to paddle through the heart of the Wenaha to Canyon Wilderness, a roadless area that spans the Blue Mountains of Oregon and Washington. The Wenaha River runs through the southern portion of the wilderness. The stretch we'll be paddling starts at the end of the Elk Flat Trail and flows 22 miles until it meets the Grand Ronde River at the small Oregon town of Troy. But beyond a few details we got from a local outfitter, none of us has a clue about what we're really in for.
I knew nothing about this place. I didn't even know there was a Wenaha to Canyon Wilderness, which is something I should know. Every time I mentioned it, people said, "Oh, you mean to go into the EMMYS?" I'm like, nope, it's the Wenaha, and nobody'd ever heard of it.
Our boat's ultralight pack rafts that weigh only 8 pounds and that we hope will prove tough enough.
We're gonna do this. You know, we're committed. What I'm thinking about is, I can't believe these other people agreed to do this with me.
Well, you know, we're adventurous souls here, our whole crew. So we kind of enjoy the obstacles and the challenges. You know, that makes it a very special place. And combined with the remoteness, you know, it's just a place that does not invite a whole lot of use. If you can imagine the grandeur of Hell's Canyon combined with the intimacy of a mountain stream, you know, that's sort of what we have here on the Wenaha.
Tim is an author and photographer who has written over 24 guidebooks to rivers and wild places. Zach Collier spends over 150 days a year on rivers as a commercial outfitter. They've each paddled almost all the big-name rivers in the West, but whitewater isn't the reason they seek out places like this.
It's more about the place than the activity. Boating for me is principally a way of traveling in the natural world.
There's a lot of rivers, but there's sections of really random rivers where we know nothing about them because people just don't do them. It's just in the whitewater community, in the boarding community, people sort of stick to the ones that are in the book. You know, there's a general handful that everybody does.
For all our way, it's been very low. I mean, we hit rocks the whole way down the river. We've hit hundreds of rocks.
It's tricky. You're kind of battling your way down the river sometimes.
Our first day's camp is decided for us. no one has the energy this late in the day to deal with a massive log jam.
Anytime we see something like this, we take it really seriously. So might as well just stop here, camp, and think about it tonight, and then do it first thing in the morning.
Anyone who's ever done a commercial river trip knows that they can be pretty posh. Wenaha river camping is the opposite.
It's so minimal. Like on the road, we're setting up a big kitchen and we're having a big campfire and stoves and Dutch ovens. You know, it takes 20 minutes to set that stuff up. Here we're pulling over, pulling out our sleeping bags, and that's it.
You're gonna see me a lot in this. I'm pretty sure I forgot my clothes. What?
Unfortunately, that big log jam is still waiting for us in the morning. It takes us more than a half an hour to make a safe portage of only 50 yards.
It's part of river running. Wood is naturally here, so we're gonna run into it, and it's part of these trips. And you have to be able to deal with it.
As the days progress, side creeks eventually join the main stem, giving the Wenaha more flow and even creating a few deep pools. We don't see the wolves, bear, and elk that thrive in the Wenaha, but we do spy a few native Columbia spotted frogs. And this wandering garter snake, who spends over 20 minutes digesting a fish.
It's always about the small stuff. It's definitely a wild place. Like, it's more wild than the Rogue, it's more wild than the Middle Fork of the Salmon, because people just don't come here.
It's unlikely the Wenaha will see crowds anytime soon, given the challenges we face every few miles.
Drag up and go down the other side. We got a brush jam here that we can't get through. There's another channel behind this island that it's got smaller volume, but it looks more open. I'm just going to drag up 100 feet or so and go down the other route.
Progress is slow.
The race is on.
After about a half an hour, we finally break free of the brush. Our boat's only a little worse for the wear. We finally emerge from that mess, only to find ourselves in a hot landscape that has been painted black.
The Grizzly Ridge fire burned here 80,000 acres in 2015. Usually the riparian corridor in a fire is somewhat protected because it's cooler, it's damper. But here, even it burned. You can see a big cottonwood tree right here. They are, to me, they're the biggest tragedy of a fire because I love cottonwoods. They're so much a part of rivers and river life. These kind of fires happen though. It's a part of life in the West.
For paddlers, future navigation on the Wenaha will get worse as dead standing trees eventually fall in the river and create even more hazards than we encounter. With few trees for cover, we take refuge in the coolness of the river. Lucky for us, photographer Jeremy Monroe got his degree in aquatic ecology, and we take full advantage.
We kind of just tiptoe in, and once we're going, we'll just kind of drift down and try and keep your hands and stuff off the bottom, but keep your eyes out for those fish.
We caught glimpses of fish from our boats, but underwater we come face to face with schools of whitefish, chinook, and one of the state's largest populations of bull trout. The river bottom is also covered with caddisfly and stonefly, the foundation of any healthy salmon run.
My idea of wilderness is like the vastness of where we're at and looking around and hiking, and all of a sudden we put our heads in the water and saw life.
It just kind of amplified this idea of the mystery of the natural world. You have to go underwater to see it. It's this hidden world just under the surface of the water.
For 40 years, Tim has used photography and writing to capture the kind of experience he invited us to share with him for 4 days on the Wenaha.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. The green and the white and the black.
There's a reason Tim spent decades living out of his van, dedicating his life to travel, wilderness, but more importantly to him, the conservation of rivers just like this one.
So rivers really offer that opportunity, which is becoming kind of a rare thing in today's world, where everything is so built up or so regulated that you just don't have the opportunity to be wild and young and free again and to pretend you're Huckleberry Finn going down the Mississippi River.
22 miles of river, a 5-mile backpack. None of it actually as hard as any of us expected, and yet hard enough that solitude for future travelers on the Wenaha is all but certain.
Sweating out all the hard work, the payoff is when you're at camp, you know, having your Irish coffee, you know, having dinner, you know, just with friends. You know, that's the payoff, just kicking back. You guys accomplished something, we did something, and we're in this cool place, kind of on our own.